Welcome to Reckoning Brothers, everybody. This is Evening Drinks. I'm Mark.
I'm Scott.
I'm Josh. So
Scott?
the way that we've been doing this show lately, it's been kind of chaotic. And one of the things we're going to try is to have one person, me, and a rotating topic. Mark, you okay? Okay.
He's
We're
like,
gonna
if
have
I'm going to listen to Josh go through all this fucking shit, I'm going to I need to drink straight from the bottle.
Yeah, so we're going to have a rotating moderator, and the other two will be kind of responding to the questions and topics. So I'm going to go first, and this is a little bit
Why do you get to go
anxiety
first?
ridden. So let's just roll with it, okay?
Real quick, Josh, before you start, do I look like I have jaundice right now? I feel like this new light is
Jaundice.
not doing me too good. Jaundice
No.
is that yellow
I know
disease.
what jaundice is,
Okay.
but
How
no,
about it?
you don't. Now you
Right.
do.
How about now?
Now you really do.
So original it is. Sorry, Josh. Please go ahead.
Cool. Okay, you're nice and cool. You got a nice perplexion. Perplexion.
Thank you.
Is that yeah? Okay.
Do you
Okay.
drive all the girls crazy with
Skip
this?
that part. Cut that out. Okay.
Not going to do it.
So first off, have you guys visited the D.O.G.E.com website? I'm sorry, D.O.G.E.gov.
Nope,
You visited?
I have not.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would like you to take a moment, and our audience, if we ever have one, do the same thing. Just pull up a browser, go to D.O.G.E.gov.
You can't click on anything, and it just says Department of Government Efficiency. The people voted for major reform, and there's a little dollar sign.
That's it.
I was
That's all they need. They don't need any flashy websites. I thought it was fantastic.
watching the left watching the left meltdown over. It's just incredible though. It's like
it is fantastic. That's going to be
it's fucking glorious. They're like, yeah, boy, Elon Musk is accessing people's social security number. I'm like, you broke motherfucker. Elon Musk don't need your fucking money.
He
What
doesn't
the fuck
care.
is wrong with you? You fucking get your broke ass fucking ass out of here. Elon Musk is accessing people's social security number. Is going to raid the treasury.
Mark, correct me if I'm wrong here, but don't a lot of government employees have access to your social security number, address, VIN number, all that shit? Like
no,
tons.
You don't understand, Scott. He's an unelected bureaucrat. Yeah, Scott, what is it?
I don't remember electing anyone at the DMV. Maybe I did. I don't know. I don't pay attention to, like, once you get down ballot far enough, I really don't focus on it.
Do you want to hear me tell a joke?
Please, by all means.
The Pentagon is going to rename their new Vanguard missile. They're going to call it Civil Service because they can't fire it. They can't get it to work.
Boom. Nice.
That joke is
Josh is not amused.
That joke is 65 years old.
I got a lot of content. Want to move on? Let's go.
That joke is 10 years younger than Mark, and
it is.
Yeah, go please. I'm sorry, Josh. We interrupted.
Right. So the next website. Have you visited ever the U.S. National Debt Clock website? So U.S. National Debt Clock website. Have you seen this thing? It has got. It's a huge dashboard. It's got key performance indicators from everything. Are you a taxpayer? How much do you owe as far as your debt is concerned? Are you a citizen? How much do you owe? The difference between citizen and taxpayer. Is there a single family home, etc.? So if you guys could take a moment and take a look at that, there's a specific clock now that's been added to the U.S. National Debt Clock called the D.O.G.E. clock. And 3 days ago, I looked at it, and it was at $71 trillion. They have saved that much money so far. Today, when I looked at it, it's at 76. So $5 trillion in 3 days.
Why is Josh on such a delay?
It's how the internet works. Mark, I have a question for you though. Is Josh in his newfound interest in being a part of talking on the podcast getting you as sexually aroused as it is getting me?
No.
Just say yes.
Yes.
I really want to see this. What's this website address, Josh? I want to check this out. This sounds really cool.
U.S. National Debt Clock. I
I'll
think.
just search for it. That's
Yeah,
how the
I got
internet
it.
works, right?
Do you know how the U.S.
National
Net,
Debt.
do you know how
USDebtClock.org.
do you know how the U.S. National Debt Clock works?
No, fill me in. That's an impressive. Whoa,
It's
Jesus,
pretty
that's a lot of
cool, isn't it?
information.
Yeah. Federal
It's like
budget deficit per person, debt per
That's
citizen,
how the
debt per
U.S. National
taxpayer,
Debt Clock works.
Social Security, defense wars, interest on debt. It's huge. It's really impressive. But the Doge clock is brand new to it. They just recently added
okay.
it. So I thought that was pretty cool. I think that's it was worthy of conversation. So just
I read
to
a
just a note on Doge and what they're doing. There's only 4 people involved in this in Doge itself. Are you aware of this?
Yeah, and it's unfortunate that big balls couldn't stick around. I was a little disappointed
there's
So
not
that.
there's not only 4.
there at least 4 employees could include special government employees who would be assigned to each agency, such as Department of Labor or the Treasury Department. Those groups were to include 1 team leader, 1 engineer, 1 human resource specialist, and 1 attorney. Those teams are tasked with software modernization initiative to improve the quality and efficiency of government-wide software, network infrastructure, and IT information technology systems. According to Mr. Trump's order, the teams would advise the agency on implementing President's DOGE agenda, the executive order states. So that is just a broad overview of exactly what that
He's
is.
an
But
unelected bureaucrat. He's there to read the Treasury.
okay, so one of the things,
No
like
one
It is.
right
elected
off the
you.
top,
No one elected your ass, Mr. Musk. Elon
this
Musk
might
is
have
a
been better for an
nepo
afternoon tea,
baby.
Scott.
I
I
love. That's why we have to
apologize.
split it into 2. This is the 2
I was
extremes of our personality.
I
Yeah,
want to
it
go
is.
to
That's
Washington
true.
D.C. and scream at federal buildings.
I would
So
love
we're
to
going
see
to
that.
continue on with the Doge conversation. The U.S. government makes 1.3 billion payments a year. Right now, there are 2 employees going through payments. They are read only, and
Wait, I'm sorry. By payments, do you mean
payments,
everything? Like payments to their employees, payments to people
yes,
overseas, payments to
vendors, except
government contractors, people taking welfare, everything.
yes,
Okay,
1.3
got it.
billion payments a year. So right now, Doja's got 2 employees going through those payments, and all the hubbub right now is the access to the Treasury Department and their payment system. And these
Okay,
employees are
wait.
read
I'm sorry.
only.
Sorry to cut you off. By 2 employees, I think what's important. It's not 2 employees. It's all of the best that AI Grok has to offer
That
being
could be,
managed by
yeah.
2 employees.
I'd
And
imagine it
Mark,
is.
do you think so as well?
yeah, and it's more than 2 people.
Hmm. So a handful of people, though, right? I mean, it's got to be less than
A
100.
handful of people. Yeah,
Handful of people, a smart group of
yeah,
people.
yeah. And
Is that your
as
hill
long
you
as
want to
we're
die on? Really?
Sounds like it. Sounds like it is.
I never did anything to Josh's people, but he's always doing this stuff.
The Irish,
He's always trying
Irish
to.
did enough to
He's
themselves. They
always
don't need
he's
anything
al-
else
he's
done to them.
always trying to hurt Sparky.
Okay,
He always
so
tries to
moving
hurt
on. So meanwhile, we got Chuck Schumer, we got Hakeem Jeffries. New York Democrats plan to introduce legislation that would block unlawful meddling in the Treasury Department's payment systems. So they're read only. They can only see the payments that are being made.
Hmm.
And they're picking and choosing what things are really, do we need to make a payment for that? First thing, they canceled the agency subscription to the New York Times. They also canceled the Politico subscriptions. At
Hmm.
one point, it was thought to be $8.2 million in U.S. government spending on Politico subscriptions. Mark, go. Discuss.
Well, the most important thing people need to know, since there's so much disinformation and misinformation out there, is that no, Elon Musk and the Doge team are not unelected people that are, in a rogue operation. They're appointed by the President of the United States. So, and I know something about that because I was appointed. I once was appointed by the President of the United States. I was once
You're a
detailed.
prostitute. That doesn't count. You're appointed to the office of D's nuts, and you did a wonderful job.
I was special assistant to the president for D's
I
nuts.
bet you were. I bet you were. No, I'm sorry. This is an important point, though,
No, it's
because
a very
people think
important.
that
No, it's a
Musk
very
has the
important.
power to wave his wand and do everything.
So the president of the United States is in charge of the executive branch. He can appoint anybody he wants to the executive branch. He's in charge of that constitutionally. The separation of powers explicitly states that the president is in charge of the executive branch. He's in charge of the federal government. He's in charge of the federal workforce. Through what is called a Schedule C appointment, which is a presidential appointment. So people who work for the president at the White House are Schedule C appointments. Some of them are senior appointments, like assistant to the president for national security, assistant to the president for domestic policy, etc. Cabinet and sub-cabinet positions that require Senate confirmation are different. Those do not come under the preview of. Of course, they work for the executive branch, but they're not. Those aren't appointments that are carte blanche, appointed by the president, answer directly to the president, serve at the pleasure of the president. Not just this president, every president. And
Would
every
it be
president.
almost the same, Mark, as just a company hiring a consultant? Do they have the same amount of power? The president can listen or he can't.
Correct, but you become so in Musk's case, since he's not taking a salary, right? So he's what's called he is what's called a special appointment because he's not taking a salary, and the president can appoint somebody to a special appointment for I think it's 130 days, something like that. Then he can get reappointed. I can guarantee you that the people that are working for him are, if they're not working, unless Musk is paying them through one of his other companies, the Doge team.
And he might be.
They might be, because Musk has pledged to, do this for free. But my guess is they're probably Schedule C appointments. They've been appointed by the president. They've been credentialed by the Office of Presidential. They've been credentialed by the Executive Office of the President. And appointed to a Schedule C appointment by the Office of Presidential Personnel, and they work for the president. And so these people are, it's a rogue team. The rogue team might be better summarized as the unelected bureaucrats that have been running the federal government for decades, unanswerable to the public and wasting their money. The Doge team is working for a duly elected president who campaigned on appointing a Doge team.
That's so weird when a president does what they campaigned on. I think that's what's really throwing people for a loop. Like, wait, you mean sometimes politicians will do what they say? Get the fuck out of town. But it's actually happening, for better or for worse.
The meltdowns.
It's what the man said he'd do.
And the meltdowns are incredible. I saw a poll today. See, this is a CBS News poll. Trump's approval rating, 53%. 53%. And that's after waves and waves and, just shit tons of negative headlines about Elon Musk and, Donald Trump is a threat to democracy and, rogue takeover of the federal government. And senators and congressmen screaming at federal buildings, and it needed to be said because a lot of people are really misinformed.
Can I ask a question to Mark? Yeah. Josh, do I have your permission? Wonderful. What message would you give, Mark, to people who take it too far? Like, I heard about the Politico subscriptions, but there are people out there on Twitter and the internet saying that USAID was giving money to Politico to bribe them. They were saying that's what that was, taking it way to the extreme.
No, that's a very
What do you say to these people?
No, that's a very good question. So there's a difference between randos on Twitter who make false claims like that, because that claim is false.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and news organizations who who make claims, who are making claims that Politico received no money from USAID, because both are equally misleading.
Factcheck.com says they received 24,000 in USAID payments.
It's actually 44,000, and yeah, and people need to understand this, that when you work in government, when I worked in government, when I worked in the executive branch, when I worked in the White House, everybody got every office got the New York Times and the LA Times, got 7 or 8 newspapers delivered to the office every day, along with Foreign Affairs Quarterly, Foreign Policy, the Spectator. You know, you had, because you needed those resources. You needed to be able to, look at the. You,
You had to be able to know how to do your job, right? And part of your job was knowing what
well,
these
correct.
reporters were saying.
So the
Makes sense.
government has spent money on subscriptions for like forever. The reason why it became so controversial in this case is because USAID was paying Politico for subscriptions to a Politico Pro, which is a really expensive service that costs like $43,000.
Mm.
And
Can we just pause here for just a second?
sure,
You're talking about Politico. You're talking about $44,000. We're talking about $8.2 million. But the whole thing is AID is what?
USAID is Agency for International Development.
Right. What the fuck does that have to do with Politico?
You need information to do your job if you're trying to direct government funds, right? It seems like
Correct.
even if you're a government employee, you don't have access to all the special information in the world.
But
So
you see what
being
I'm
able to
getting at,
listen to
right?
reporters in the news would be important.
But you see what I'm
Josh,
getting at. It has nothing
well,
to do with
so,
domestic politics, which is
and this
what
gets back,
primarily Politico
Oh, I
is.
get what you're getting at. Yeah.
yeah, and this
Domestically, it
also,
shouldn't matter.
yeah, and this also gets back to my original point that government does pay for subscriptions and always has for decades, and
Why
you
would
know,
it come out of that budget, though?
You mean why would the people just not pay for it out of their own salary to get their
No, I
own
mean
subscription?
for my personal experience, I work at a large multinational corporation where they have individual assets, and you have plant level, you have business level, you have region level. Why wouldn't it come out of the local plant P&L? That's what I'm saying. It comes out of the Agency for International Development. That seems to me like it's 7 layers above what it should be. Does that make
people
sense to you?
people at the Agency for International Development felt they needed a subscription to Politico Pro because Politico Pro
Was a
had,
quid pro quo.
I
well,
doubt it.
yes, in that. So there's all kinds of good points being made here.
It is. You never answered my question though, and I really wanted to know what you thought about. What would you say to the person on the internet that takes it too far, that thinks that they think they're actually going to win their side of victory for saying things like Politico was paid for and bought off by USAID and the government, the people that just run with every conspiracy theory, and I think make it worse for people who are trying to make the government more efficient and better.
Both sides make it worse.
Hmm.
There are tons of players in this whole rigmarole that are all making it worse. Yes.
Well, let's move on to making it worse. Okay, shall we?
Great segue. It's like a
So,
fucking Ed McMahon up in this bitch.
so let me just start with a little bit of a quote. And I know we are going over time, so let's just play with that and see what happens. Um, this is a rumor, but rumors are usually a kernel of truth. Can we all agree on that?
Well, they're based on something. Whether that's true or not, probably a lot of times it is, but
Okay.
they're based on something.
Elizabeth
Seems
Warren
real.
was quoted as saying, "There's nothing in the Constitution that says ordinary citizens, Americans, have a right to see what we're spending tax dollars on."
Did you research it to see if it's true?
I did, fact checked it. It doesn't seem to be, but it's making headway.
It's probably not true.
Is there a kernel of truth in there, or is it a complete embellishment?
Well, yes, there's a kernel of truth in it, but just because there's a kernel of truth in it doesn't mean that people should be spreading it on the internet. I mean,
Does the CIA have a right to hide the way they spend their money? They're a secretive organization. Maybe she's just taking that and running with it to other organizations.
Could be.
Elizabeth Warren is she's so phony. It makes me sick.
Dude, she's awful. Oh my God.
Yeah, she's out there.
I'm going to edit a big old picture of her face up right here. Everybody just look at this for a full 10 seconds.
I mean, she is such a. She is
5 seconds is long enough. Go ahead.
That was long enough. Yeah.
She's such a fraud. She's such a phony. She's not very bright. The other day, I called her the fifth dumbest senator in the Senate, behind Maisie.
I thought you were going to say the fifth dumbest Native American.
Rono is number one. The dumbest senator who's ever lived in the history of the United States. Certainly the dumbest senator now. Tammy Duckworth, number 2. Patty Murray, number 3. Maybe Elizabeth Warren was number 4. Who was number 5? Scott?
AOC?
Senators, not congressmen.
Oh,
senators.
Okay.
Dude, if you're talking about congressmen, Jesus, that's a big list. Half of those people are insane.
Yeah.
What happens when you narrow it down to a small district of voters? Turns out America's
number 4 was Tina Smith, and number 5 was Elizabeth Warren. Tina Smith, yeah, and I only needed one example from Tina Smith to call her the fourth dumbest senator in the Senate, because she tweeted out that it was horrifying to know that Elon Musk's team would have anything to do with transportation, and boy, did she got hit. She got fucking hit. Like the motherfucker,
horrifying to know that he was going to have anything to do with transportation. He's an auditor, man. He's just an auditor. Have these people never been audited or don't understand the concept of auditing?
No, they haven't. That's the problem.
The point she was trying to make.
Let's audit all these motherfuckers.
The point that she thought she was trying to make was, that he shouldn't be involved with anything at transportation, or with NASA, and people were like,
he's a NASA competitor because of SpaceX or something.
Yeah. They're like, what he does for a living, right?
You know that NASA hires SpaceX, like a lot.
Yeah,
you know they're basically a subcontractor. That's how this works. Dumbass people on the internet. That's what I want to say. These dumbass people on the internet, just stop. And you know what? Much more importantly, everybody stop listening to idiots. Just take 5 minutes to focus on who you're listening to and make sure your emotions aren't running away with you and that person's really worth listening to.
And
that includes us, especially Mark.
And as we wrap it up, I can't.
I'm sorry, no, we're not wrapping up yet.
Oh, geez, Daddy's getting Daddy's getting rough.
So we're talking about Elizabeth Warren. We're talking about the rumors, but I wanted to touch on the Freedom of Information Act and Government Accountability Office, both of those things that allow transparency within the government. So there are 2 other things that are rumors right now. One is, I'm not listening to you, I'm still talking, is
he's in charge this week, man. This is the new rules. We talked about this.
Have you seen the news? There's 2 of them with Chelsea Clinton and Ben Stiller. Have you heard the news about either one of these? Apparently,
I saw their names pop up on Twitter, and I'm like, I'm not looking at this. What is it?
Well, apparently there's a $10 million house that was fronted by USAID that was for Chelsea Clinton, and they paid for a wedding or something like that. And Ben Stiller got a handshake with Vladimir Zelensky, and he was paid to do that. So what is not rumors, and I will continue, is the $50 million to fund condoms in Gaza, the $1.5 million to advance DEI in Serbia's workplaces, $70,000 for the production of a DEI musical in Ireland.
That one I'm for, actually.
$47,000 on a transgender opera in Colombia.
I was the star of that opera.
You did a wonderful job. I don't know where they're talking about this guy from this Netflix movie, trans dude winning all these Oscars. It should have been you. I'm sorry, Josh. Please continue.
Josh is talking about all this stuff like it's bad.
$32,000 for a transgender comic in Peru. $37 million to the World Health Organization, which I think he's pulled us out of that. I don't know if is that accurate. Has he pulled us out?
Yeah.
Okay. $16 million in funding
Oh,
for
wow.
institutional contractors and gender development offices. $6 million non-emergency funding for redundant administrative supports. It's redundant. That's the key word there. 600,000 to fund technical assistance for family planning in Latin America. There's 40,000 to do Sesame Street in Iraq. 200
That's a
million
good one. I'll take that.
in
Shit, I actually don't even hate that idea. If it was like a lesser cost and USAID did stuff like that and not the rest of the crazy shit,
right.
that wouldn't have tipped me over. I'd have been like, great. Sorry.
Well, here's the tip over. 200 million in transgender animal testing. They're surgically mutilating or using hormone therapies, biological and physiological testing. They're making rats the opposite sex
It's
and
stupid. I know what their logic
seeing
is. You need
how
to
they go.
you need to
1.1 million to see if mice would overdose on party drugs.
I'm for that actually.
95% of these are animal experiences are funded directly from Fauci in his
I
office.
could have given him the proper answer on the party drug overdosing thing, but go ahead.
You want to
43
be the mouse
million
for that one.
43 million on a gas station in Afghanistan. They actually made a natural gas station. Have you heard about this one?
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Afghanistan.
Nobody's been yeah. And
Gotta edit
lastly,
that out.
5.5 million for gay rights in Uganda. So that's just a snippet
Right off the top. Yeah, right off the top.
of what has been found.
Right off the top. So the 50 million for condoms in Gaza is a misnomer. It was 50 million for family planning services in Gaza.
So
Not
condoms were probably a part of that, and then people
right.
just took it
It's
and ran with it.
Misnomer or
Yeah,
not,
fair.
why are we spending $50 million on family planning in Gaza?
Fair, and that's what I was talking about earlier. It's like when people don't say things accurately and they try to twist the words they think they're strengthening their point, it weakens it. Right?
Right. And I
And
think
it
we should all
frustrates me to
and
the
I think
end.
we should all be able to agree that since the mission statement of USAID is to advance American interests around the world and that reflect American standards and American foreign policy, that a lot of this stuff doesn't fall anywhere near that preview. There's
Not at all.
nothing. There's nothing about a transgender opera in any country that advances the interests of the United States or helps poor people. So
Yeah. So exactly. And have you seen Nancy Mace on this? I mean, she's reading a list after list. So, Senator, does this advance the United States? Is this advance the interests of the United States?
Nancy Mace
Just
is correct. Yeah, she's
constantly.
correct. Yeah, she's correct on that. She's
Yeah.
also hot. She has
She
big
is.
tits.
And that was the
You kept saying Nancy Mace. I was thinking of Nancy Grace. I think it is from like 10 years
CNN.
ago. She was big, like the Southern ass woman.
Yeah, the criminal catcher.
Which makes sense. You said she was hot. I figured that was the type you were into, just like a big old Southern gal.
this is the one that actually in response to questioning from House Oversight, she was wanting to remove the transgender ability to use the bathrooms.
Bottles in the other room. Otherwise, oh, okay, I remember that. Got
And she
it.
says, and this is a quote, when one of the congressmen or senators said, you're using a subversive word, you shouldn't be saying tranny. She said, tranny. I don't really care. You want penises in the women's bathroom, and I'm not going to have it. No, thank you. She is great.
Tranny. I don't care. That's
I gave Josh a
pretty good line.
before I came right after I came over. Right after I came over today, which is why he's just been on this tear.
He's been a son. Well, Mark, next week, per the rules as discussed earlier, you get to run the whole show. You can tell Josh to shut the fuck up.
Yeah.
Tell me to shut the fuck up. These are the rules that we agreed on. It's all you. Whatever you want to talk about, be as big a dick as you want.
Here's
You can
the
use
last
Josh.
thing. The last thing, and I will end it here. Mark, have you seen the new Superman trailer?
Yes.
What do you think
dude.
about the
It
Superman
looks sick.
trailer?
It looks pretty good.
It looks good.
Have you noticed
Super
the
dog?
accuracy
I was like sold.
with the super
You're going to
dog,
show a cute
right?
ass dog with a fucking cape, and you expect me not to see that movie? You're out of your goddamn
Right.
mind.
Right.
I'm seeing the fuck. As soon as I saw the dog sold, I was watching with my fiance, and she just like lost her mind. Of course, when the dog showed up, I was like, "Yeah, we're seeing that fucking movie
The dog
Yeah.
for
saves
sure."
him, doesn't he? At some point,
Yeah,
the
he
dog-
drags him away at like the end of it.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
That was
sold.
it for me. That was it. As soon as I saw the dog.
Yeah,
All right.
brilliant.
Well, we're going to wrap up now. Thanks, everybody. I have been your moderator tonight. Next week it will be Eeny, Meeny, Miny, Mo, Kiss Show Party. Scott. All right.
Well, that was me last week. It's supposed to be Mark next week.
Did you do it last week?
Yeah. Because you were supposed to do this one last week, but you're like, I got too drunk through the week, and I ate too many fries,
Is
so
that
I
what
couldn't like
happened?
write down my scripts.
So, Mark, it's your
So
turn.
I did it, and I pulled it last minute, and we had a really great conversation with Mark about what lesser known political figures are worth paying attention to. It was informative.
You're
I
absolutely
really liked
correct.
it. It was one of my favorites.
That was a good one.
So that
My
means,
bad.
Mark, your turn next week.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion dictates that I am the moderator next week.
Because you're old, or because you're gay, or because you're the AIDS, because you've got... There's so many different things.
Well played, Scott. Well played.
I only suck dick for drug money, Scott.
All right.
Hey, man. Whatever makes you happy.
We have run way over. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.